With a gaming company like Nintendo making home console video games for over 40 years, it should be no surprise that not every single game Nintendo has ever released was a guaranteed smash hit. Not every game Nintendo releases will be as amazing as the likes of Mario Odyssey or Tears of the Kingdom. Nintendo has released some pretty underwhelming stuff before, whether it be original ideas that failed to take off or disappointing entries of fan favorite franchises. And today I am going to look at an example of the latter, Mario Party 9. Released in 2012 as the 9th mainline entry in the long-running Mario Party series, Mario Party 9 is a game that when it came out, everyone pretty much collectively went, wow, this was kinda bad. It felt like the reception for Mario Party 9 has only ever gotten worse over time. Not only was it the first mainline entry to completely change the traditional gameplay formula of the previous games in the series, which let me tell you, it did not sit well with fans, but it was also the game that many people point to as the beginning of the downfall for the series. This is because a large amount of future Mario Party games to be released after 9 were also met with mixed and negative feedback. I remember playing this game the very day it came out, and I thought it was pretty fun, so I was pretty confused to look up the game online afterwards, only to find out that a majority of people were pretty upset with it. And here I am now. I haven't played the game in quite a while, and so I thought it would be a good time to pick it up again and give it a fair go to see whether the game was actually good all this time or if it was really deserving of its negative status. So today I am going to be answering the question, was Mario Party 9 really that bad? So when you boot up the game and go past the title screen, you will see that there are 5 main modes to choose from. Even though Party would naturally be the first place to go for this type of game, we're going to look at Solo first because that is where we get to play the story mode of this game. Yeah, that's right, Mario Party 9 of all things has a campaign. That's something a lot of games can't really say for themselves. The story starts with Mario and friends looking at the stars in the sky, as friends are known to do, until all of a sudden all of the stars in the sky get stolen by Bowser, and apparently this is our problem, and thus we now have to go on an epic journey to stop him and bring the stars back to the sky. And we do that by basically winning across 6 different boards. I think it's now time to bring up the very thing that made people dislike Mario Party 9 the most, the change in gameplay mechanics, specifically with the boards. In prior Mario Party games, the way you play a board in the game is by moving around for a set number of turns. Usually these boards would have many different paths to go on, which makes it pretty interesting to move around in, and you'll want to go to a specific route depending on where the star is located, which is the main collectible of the game. In Mario Party 9, however, the boards are incredibly linear, having a definitive start and end to them. There are different routes that you can go along the way, but they're either so short and uneventful or so long that they practically become just a secondary alternate lane, and they both lead you back on the same linear lane once you're finished with them. Another difference is the way you navigate around the boards. In previous Mario Party games, each person moves individually by rolling the dice. In Mario Party 9, however, everyone moves together in a car. If one person rolls a 2, everybody else moves alongside with them 2 spaces forward, and this basically happens for every player's turn. The next change is the objective of the game. In the classic games, your objective was to navigate around the boards and reach the star spaces in order to collect the aforementioned stars, but each star would cost 20 coins to obtain, and you would get these coins by landing on board spaces, winning in mini games, or through other random events. After a set number of turns, whoever has the most stars by the end wins the game. In Mario Party 9 though, the game features no coins or standard stars to collect. Instead, you go around trying to collect these miniature stars that Bowser stole from the beginning story cutscene, and they're called mini stars. You get them by either crossing them on the board when it's your turn, winning in mini games, landing on lucky spaces. Basically, there are many opportunities to get these things, but there are also opportunities to lose them by either landing on Bowser spaces or by crossing these purple colored mini stars called... what? Okay, mini-zitars? Mini-zitars? Mini-zars? Okay, I just call these things minus stars. They take away from your mini-star count, and they just have a stupid-ass name. And the winner of the game is simply determined by who has the most mini-stars by the end of the board. Final change worth noting is when a minigame occurs. Previously, a minigame happens after the end of a single turn for all players. In Mario Party 9, that no longer happens, and instead a minigame happens when you either land on a dedicated minigame space, or when the game notices you haven't landed on a minigame space in a while, and so just surprises you with one. Which is kinda funny because it was obviously done due to a flaw within their game design, but whatever. And that is pretty much the biggest gameplay changes done in Mario Party 9. Now I want to quickly talk about the new inclusions that were brought to this game that we haven't seen from prior mainline Mario Party games. First up, Captain Events. Captain Events are basically these little side games that you'll play where the person who lands on them, they're called the captain by the way, has some kind of control and choice in how they approach the event. There's a different one for each board, and they're basically just another way to earn mini stars. While most of the minigame types from the prior Mario Party games are here, including free-for-alls, 1v3s, and battle minigames, the only type of Mario Party minigames to not be here are the 2v2 minigames. Instead, those kind of got replaced by these Bowser Jr. minigames. If a player lands on a Bowser Jr. space, they alongside another player have to team up and play against Bowser Jr. in one of 10 unique minigames. If the 2 players win, they both earn mini stars, and if Jr. wins, they both lose mini stars. These are an alright inclusion, though I sort of prefer the 2v2 minigames more because that gives something for all 4 players to do. If you have 4 people playing this game and a Jr. minigame pops up, there's going to always be 2 people who will just be left to do nothing while the other 2 have fun playing the minigame. And the final new inclusion inclusion being a brand new genre of minigames that we have never seen before in the mainline Mario Party series. Boss minigames. Technically, we have seen prior mainline Mario Party games include like one boss, but Mario Party 9 includes an impressive number of 12 boss minigames, 2 unique ones for each of the 6 main boards. You play 2 boss minigames on each board, a mid-boss around halfway on the board and a stage boss at the end. These minigames last much longer compared to the other minigames, and they all revolve around getting points by dealing damage onto the bosses. So yeah, the gameplay of Mario Party 9 has everyone move across a linear board from point A to point B on a car while also trying to collect mini-stars for mini-games, bosses, and captain events. It is clearly much different from the classic games, but now it's time to ask the more important question: is it fun to play? Yeah, kinda. While I will say it is not as good as the traditional Mario Party gameplay, there is still some fun to be had with MP9's new gameplay approach. The linear board game design as well as the bosses that are appropriately themed on which board you're on make it feel like you're going on some kind of journey alongside everyone. The competitiveness in MP9 feels more so like a friendly competition between peers rather than the prior Mario Party entries where it makes you want to chuck a controller at the person next to you because he stole all of her damn stars during chance time. Another example of how the competitive aspect of MP9 is lesser than other entries is how luck now plays a bigger role in how you perform in the game. Prior Mario Party games had a good balance between being skill-based and luck-based. If you were skilled enough to get good at the mini-games, then you will earn coins that can then be spent on the main collectible. Or you can spend those coins on items that will assist you in getting the star easier, whether it be multiple dice rolls in a single turn, or sometimes it'll just be an item that'll teleport you right to the star. Being good at the game can bring you to victory in classic Mario Party, but then there's the luck aspect to it. In order for the classic games to implement the element of unpredictability, as well as to give players who may have sucked at the mini-games a chance to win, the game introduces luck-based elements. Every Mario Party, this even includes 9, have minigames that are completely luck-based, meaning it is completely up in the air on who will win these minigames and obtain the coins or mini-stars. Then there are some luck-based spaces and elements that happen on the boards of the classic games, such as Bowser spaces, making it random on whether you'll end up losing some of or most of your coins or even stars, or the aforementioned chance time. Everybody is chill until chance time happens. Now, if the games were to be completely luck-based, it wouldn't be fun, but it's that balance between luck and skill that gives Mario Party that chaotic energy and also gives it that infamous friendship ruiner status. But in Mario Party 9, it felt like Nintendo touched a knob that was perfectly in between skill on one end and luck on the other and turned it to be a little bit closer on the luck side. Due to everyone now moving together and being on the same space together, it is very hard to strategize yourself on how to collect the mini stars on the board. And subsequently, it is also difficult to avoid the minus stars on the board as well. Also, because everybody's movement is based on dice rolls, it is completely based on luck on whether you'll collect the mini stars on the board and also of whether you'll end up being one space right before the minus stars. And as for items that you can obtain and use to have some kind of advantage, well, Mario Party 9 doesn't really have items. Technically that isn't true. If you land on these blue spaces, you'll get a dice block. These are special dice that will give you a higher chance on landing on a certain number or certain numbers. But an issue with these things is that you have to be lucky enough to land on these spaces, then be lucky enough to obtain the one that you want because it's random, and then you have to be lucky enough to hit the number you want from these dice blocks. It's luck on top of luck. They could have combated this by simply having some kind of item shop that you could pass like a checkpoint where you could obtain whichever dice block you want in exchange of some of your collected mini stars, but the game doesn't have anything like that. Despite this much luck at play here, you still have an opportunity to win by being good at the mini games, since they will be the most consistent way of obtaining mini stars. And despite me bashing them a bit before, you can still try to use the dice blocks in a strategic way, such as using the higher number blocks to guarantee any mini stars close ahead, or using smaller number blocks to avoid passing any of the minus stars. But yeah, the game is clearly more so about luck than skill, but it isn't completely luck based, so I and presumably others can still seek enjoyment from the game, especially with how the boards have some kind of unique gimmick to them that make them stand out from each other and be more interesting. Speaking of those boards, I think it's now time to go back to the story mode of the game and look at the 6 main boards you play in the mode. I'll be judging the boards based on the theme, bosses, captain events, gimmicks, and overall design. First up, Toad Road. Talk about an underwhelming start. I honestly don't really like the theme of this one so much. There's nothing inherently wrong with it, but it's really just a board themed mostly on grass. There really isn't even anything Toad about it. Don't let these Toad houses deceive you. These things appear on the other boards, so I don't really count them. In fact, the board's theme is very reminiscent of the World 1 theme from New Super Mario Bros. Wii. Look, they have the same polka dot pattern mountain things. The captain event here is kinda cool. All 4 players roll once to advance across this 9-shaped island, with the captain being able to choose which player rolls next. The captain is supposed to strategize on which player should move first so they can nab the 10 mini stars that are at the end of the island. This one is pretty alright. Same thing goes for the bosses. The mid bosses look key too, and you just have to hit these blocks at the right time to spawn in the most bullets to defeat him. And the stage boss is Wiggler, just perform the most amount of ground pounds on his body to win. By the way, you can ground pound on the other players and squish them in this minigame, and back in the day I thought this was like the funniest thing on the planet. And you know what, it still kind of is. So yeah, Toad Road itself is fine, just kind of wish the theming was better. Next up is Bomb Factory. The theming in this one is a lot better, being exactly what it sounds like, a factory where bombs are made. The first exciting thing to happen on this board is the mid-boss, that being Womp. Sadly though, this is one of the very few boss minigames to be luck-based. The players are on a rotating platform and they have to choose on whether they want to move the platform by one or none. Then the game reveals the player's choices and then the platform rotates depending on how many players picked one. Sometimes you'll be lucky and not be the one behind Womp when the rotation ends, and sometimes you won't be. Yeah, I'm not a fan. Now this is where the game introduces board specific gimmicks. The gimmick in this board is that a bomb will hop in front of the car. Once it does, it'll have a number on top indicating that once it's on the car, it'll explode once the car moves past 10 spaces. And whoever is unfortunate enough to be the captain when the bomb reaches 0 will lose half of their mini stars. I guess I can't be that upset about this gimmick. You're supposed to strategize and use your dice blocks in order to avoid the bomb exploding on you. However, I will be upset about how the game does this twice and the second bomb is placed right around the end of the board. You know, where the opportunity to get mini stars is pretty much at an all-time low. And it's especially bad since by this point you'll have gathered a large amount of mini stars, so if the bomb hits you and you lose half of that amount, then you pretty much lost the game. Kind of an a-hole move on Nintendo's end there. The captain event has the players move along this long vehicle and the captain chooses where everyone goes. And you all just roll the dice and move forward and hopefully be lucky enough to have the mini stars line up to your path. I'm not too crazy for this one. At least the captain event in Toad Road has the captain choose who moves along the island first so they can strategize and try to snatch a large sum of mini stars at the end of the island. But here it's all just luck because no matter where you are on the platform, everything is determined via dice rolls. Sometimes you'll get some mini stars and sometimes you won't, and it has nothing to do with the input of the captain. I just don't like this one so much. And finally there's the stage boss, King Bob-omb. And it is once again a luck-based boss minigame. Sometimes you'll get the largest bomb to throw at the boss without anybody else trying to get it as well, and sometimes you won't, and instead your character will bump themselves onto the other character and fall on their ass. Yeah, this one is worse than Toad Road. I thought it would be better because of the more unique setting, but everything else was just inferior compared to it. Next up is Boo's Horror Castle. The main gimmick of this board are the titular Boos themselves. Whenever the car passes by a Boo portrait, the Boo comes out of that portrait and follows the car by 3 spaces after the end of each player's roll. If the Boo catches up with the car, the player who last rolled will lose half of their mini stars. There are 2 methods you can try to avoid the Boos. You can use any of your saved up high numbered dice blocks or go into these alternate routes that the Boos can't enter. You'll generally want to avoid going into these things when you can, since they simply extend the duration of the game and there's a chance that the Boo will move ahead while you're still in the route, meaning it then becomes a game of trying to roll as low as you can to avoid the Boo. But if desperate times call for desperate measures, you can go into these routes when you can. You encounter the Boos a total of 3 times on the board, and each encounter has these alternate routes that you can go onto. It's pretty cool. Anyways, the mid boss here is Dry Bones. His minigame is a combination between a memory game and a game of quick reaction. You see a bunch of cards for a second and then they get flipped over, and then you have to pick the one that corresponds to which shape Dry Bones lands on. It's pretty good, but the captain event isn't. You have to chase this rat down a path by rolling the dice, with the captain deciding on which player gets to roll next. The big issue I have with this one is that it's very hard to catch up with a rat because it is heavily determined by dice rolls, and because the standard dice only goes from 1 to 6, it is pretty common to roll a small number and make very little progress. Not even making the rat only be able to roll from 1 to 3 can fix the issue. Also, you have to make sure you get the rat quick, because if you don't, he escapes and nobody gains the mini stars he has stolen, which happened in my recording, which meant everybody lost and it was a big waste of time, and yeah, I really don't like this one. And finally, there's the stage boss, King Boo. His minigame is Candy Crush. No, really, you need to move your cursor around and drag a bunch of Mario PNGs to form a 3-way line either horizontally or vertically to attack King Boo, which is, you know, similar to Candy Crush. This one's okay though. It's a little difficult to focus on your cursor because there are so many things happening on screen, but it's overall alright. And yeah, I honestly really like Boo's Horror Castle. Besides the not so great captain event, it has a nice setting, a pretty good board gimmick alongside a good board design, and the bosses were pretty good too. Favorite board so far. Bloober Beach is up next. So the main gimmick of this board is that after the mid boss, there will be a bunch of mini stars to collect on the board. However, if a player lands on an event space, all of the mini stars on the board get changed to minus stars. This also works vice versa. If somebody lands on the event space, it turns all of the changed minus stars back to mini stars. This would be annoying to deal with, but there are so many event spaces scattered around the board that it doesn't become that big of a deal when the event happens. Just save up your dice blocks and use them appropriately, and you can theoretically avoid losing a large portion of your mini stars. And as for the captain event, it kinda stinks. How have I talked about 4 captain events so far and only one of them wasn't awful? So each player goes to the bottom of the ocean and needs to get back to the top using 3 different dice blocks. They all get a certain amount of mini stars at the beginning of the event, and if they can successfully make it back to the top, they keep those mini stars. However, landing on these red unlucky spaces along the way reduces the amount of mini stars you may get if you escape. Notice how I'm using words like may and can. That's because if you don't roll a high enough number with the 3 dice blocks, you won't make it back to the top and you won't get any mini stars, which is really lame. You know what else is pretty lame? The captain's input on this event. All the captain does is choose which order of dice box everybody uses. That's it. It doesn't even make that much of a difference on which dice box you even use first. The captain doesn't really gain anything for being the one that activates the event. You also don't even get a whole lot of mini stars for your trouble. Wow, 10 mini stars. It's not like we will soon be gaining equal if not similar amounts of mini stars after we're done with this one. Wow. But get a load of this. This is the first board to have more than one captain event, and you want to know what the second captain event is about? It's the exact same as the first captain event, but now instead of possibly winning 10 mini stars, it's now 15. Oh wow, the stakes are really high with this one. Yeah, this captain event is awful. And speaking of things that are awful, the bosses aren't that. Yeah, the bosses in this one are pretty good. The cheap mid boss has to collect these shells so you can throw them back to him and deal damage and earn points. This one uses motion controls and they're pretty good and responsive, a really good boss overall. And same thing goes for the stage boss, the titular blooper. Basically, you just aim with him using the Wii Remote's pointer controls and shoot him to earn points. You also have to look out for these urchins that blooper tosses that work similarly to hot potato. When you hit the urchin, it'll lock onto another player and then they have to hit that urchin to lock onto a different player and so on until the urchin finally hits a player and they lose a point. Overall, Blooper Beach is alright, pretty much the same feelings I had with the last board. I like the theme, board gimmicks, and bosses, but I just really don't like the captain event. I'd still put it below Boo Horror Castle though, just cause I prefer to play that board a little bit more than this one, so yeah, that's about it. Next up is Magma Mine. First thing foremost, I really like the setting of this board. You start at the bottom of a mine and then the players make their way upwards to get out of it. It's really genius, honestly. It's the first and only time where the linearity board design really fits with the environment. I also really like the captain event. Yeah, that's right, we finally have a captain event that doesn't blow. Each player goes down on their own identical looking path. Everyone rolls a dice block in a single round and then everybody moves simultaneously on the amount of spaces they got from their dice rolls. The paths contain mini stars to collect, with large amounts of mini stars being placed near the cliff at the end of the path. The further you go down the path, the more mini stars you can gain, but if you roll too high and make it to the cliff, you fall off and lose all of your collected mini stars. The only way for the event to end is for the captain to either be lucky enough to get all of the mini stars, fall off and lose all of their mini stars, or if they decide to simply end the event. Yeah, at the beginning of each round, the captain has the choice to just end the round right then and there. When the event ends, any mini stars that each player earned without falling off gets added to their mini star total. I honestly really love this captain event. It implements a nice risk and reward system, and since the captain is the one to choose when to stop the event, it's a captain event where you pretty much actively want to land on it as a captain. It's pretty great. It's too bad I can't show you exactly what I'm talking about since everyone in my recording fell off on the last round, but believe me, this is a good one. The bosses are really great too. Spike is the mid boss and you have to try to quickly select the hammer using the Wii Remote's pointer controls in order to hit back the spiky balls he sends out. There's an opportunity to get a gold hammer on each round, which will help gain more points, but there is only one gold hammer on each round, so it's basically a game of quick reaction, and yeah, I honestly really like this minigame. It's pretty good. The Chain Chomp stage boss is also alright. You have a set of cannons in front of Chain Chomp and you have to watch the tracks and then select the card that will lead to the cannon so that you can earn points. I do have one complaint about this minigame, and that it's a little bit too easy. It is very easy to know which tracks will lead to a cannon, but it's overall okay. Now I saved the board's gimmick for last since it is honestly my favorite. After you defeat the mid boss, a giant pool of magma begins to rise, and it'll slowly start rising upwards after each player's turn. If the magma reaches the card, the player who made the last turn will get hit and lose half of their mini stars. This is basically the only time where the whole everybody being in a car idea actually works out, since everyone basically cooperates together to try and escape from the magma trying to reach the card by using their dice blocks to get further away from it and also trying to avoid these magma rising spaces. Or you can just be the one guy to try to purposely screw everybody over. You have the option to do that too. Overall, I really like Magma Mine. Great setting, great gimmick that is very fitting to the setting that it's in, good bosses, and the best captain event that we have seen thus far in the game. It's the best board in the game, without question. And that moves us on to the final board of the story mode, Bowser's Station. It's in space. Yeah, that's it. We're just in space, that's it. So the main gimmick of this board is that there are these jackpot spaces which will add mini stars into this jackpot machine. There are two ways to obtain the mini stars from the jackpot machine. Either land on these lucky spaces to get them all for yourself, or get them by performing well in a jackpot minigame, which is pretty much just a standard minigame, but you can earn more mini stars, and it happens when the machine reaches 20 or more mini stars. This board is special because it is the only one to have 3 different captain events on it. The first captain event has the non-captain players roll a dice to get a colored heart. The captain then rolls 3 times, and if they get the same color as at least one other player, the captain and the other players who have the same color heart earn mini stars. This one's alright if a little bit simple. The next one is Bingo Colony. It's bingo. You have a 3x3 board and everyone fills it out with a 1 to 10 dice block. The captain chooses who gets to roll next, and whoever rolls the final number needed to complete a horizontal, vertical, or diagonal line gets the mini stars, and even more if they complete more than one line. This one is okay, just like the last one, although it is a little bit more luck based, which kinda sucks, but oh well, this one's okay. And the final one is straight up just the captain event from Magma Mine, except it's done way worse here. There are 4 different paths to go on, and the captain gets to choose on who goes on which path. The shorter path will get you to the end sooner, which contains 10 mini stars, but the longer paths have smaller amounts of mini stars scattered on it, and these longer paths also have dash spaces. Whoever reaches the end of their path on the last dice roll will earn the 10 mini stars and conclude the captain event. This one's okay, but there was already a similar captain event from the last board, and that was done a lot better there, so yeah, this one kinda just does nothing for me. Now onto the bosses. So, who do you think will be the main bosses in a board called Bowser Station? Yup, that's right, Wart and Cat. Nah, I'm just kidding, it's Bowser and Bowser Jr., because of course it is, who else would it be really? The mid boss in this board is Bowser Jr., and he's just okay. My main issue is that the way you get points and deal damage to him is all luck based due to dice rolls. Sometimes you'll get the number needed to deal damage to him, and sometimes you won't. Sadly, the same problem mostly goes for Bowser's boss minigame as well. You have to roll a bunch of dice that he tosses onto an arena and try to have them land on your character so you can deal damage to him. Even though I don't necessarily like the luck element here, I do like one thing that Bowser does in this minigame. At his mad phase, Bowser will gain an additional way to attack the players by summoning an enemy or himself by using a special dice block. What makes this dice block interesting though is that all 6 sides on it contains the stage boss from all 6 of the boards in the story mode that you've played thus far. Yeah, that's it. I just sort of found the callback interesting. Bowser Station is alright. It has the most variety in terms of things that happen on the board, but it feels way too luck based, especially around the end of the board where there is no way you'll make it to the end without landing on a Bowser space at least twice. But it having 3 different captain events, eventful if luck based boss battles, and a nice setting makes it the 3rd best board behind Boo's Horror Castle. Anyways, those are the 6 main boards in the solo mode. After you successfully won in all 6 of the boards, you pretty much beat the story. All of the mini stars that were captured by Bowser are then set free in an honestly really good looking cutscene, and then everybody is back to viewing the stars in the sky. Finn. So that was basically the solo mode. Honestly, it was pretty alright. Any kind of single player mode or activities added to party games like this is pretty much appreciated, so yeah, solo mode's not bad. Now on to party. Party is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. You go here to play on any of the boards with up to 4 players to play the game like any traditional party video game, but it's here where I now talk about one more board in the game. That's right, Mario Party 9 has a 7th unlockable board in the form of DK's Jungle Ruins. This is the worst board in the entire game. Nothing inherently wrong with it, it's just super uninteresting. While I like Bowser Station for being eventful, I dislike Jungle Ruins for being pretty much the opposite of that. It's uneventful. The entire board is a circle, a very short circle. If you want to know how short it is, this board contains a total of 27 spaces. For comparison, the only other circle board in the game, Bowser Station, has a total of 58 spaces. But it gets worse because unlike Bowser Station where you do one full loop around the board, DK Jungle Ruins has you go around the board twice. That's right, you basically have to go around the same 27 spaces twice in order to complete the board. Fun. Each time you do a full loop, you engage in a quote-unquote boss minigame. I say that because these aren't boss minigames, they're special Diddy Kong and Donkey Kong minigames. And they both blow. They basically just boil down to mashing the 2 button and crossing your fingers so you get the most bananas. Oh yeah, in this board all of the mini stars are instead replaced with bananas, and instead of minus stars you collect Z bananas. Oh, for God's sakes, why not just name these things Z stars instead at that point? Would have worked out much better than whatever mistranslation this was. Oh, and let's not forget the captain event, which is just a super easy tracking game where the captain chooses who gets which barrel. They make you do this one twice, and it's not even that much harder when you do it the second time around. I'm done. This one is just abysmal. This one is a bonus board, so I shouldn't be that mad about it, but it's a bonus that I had to unlock with points that I got from the game. My hard work was spent on getting this board for the sake of footage, so yeah, I'm gonna be salty about it. This one is the worst. And that finally concludes each of the boards in the game. Here's a tier list that I made on which boards I consider the best and the worst. Feel free to use it as a reference on which boards you should play, and I'm gonna use it as a way to add tier lists onto the tags in this video, so yeah, everybody wins. Now we go on to minigames, which are mostly just additional modes that revolve around playing the minigames from the game. Speaking of which, now it's time that I finally brought up the minigames in this game. Yeah, they're pretty good. And I really do mean it. The original minigames added to this game, as well as the bosses and Bowser Jr. minigames, are honestly really fun to play. The minigames do a pretty good job in using the weird mode's features, including the pointer controls and the infamous motion controls. Motion controls in Mario Party get a bad rep. This is due to the prior mainline Mario Party installment, Mario Party 8, also implementing motion controls onto the minigames. But the way they implemented them were kinda... My day be so fine, then boom. flip the chip from Mario Party 8. But I'm happy to say that the motion control minigames in Mario Party 9 are much better compared to 8. This is mostly thanks to developers getting used to the motion control technology by now, as well as Nintendo updating it to make it more accurate. If you replace the board gameplay in this game to make it similar to traditional Mario Party games but keep the minigames the same, then pretty much nobody would bat an eye. That's how good the minigames are. Sadly though, even though the minigames are good, the modes about the minigames are kind of hit or miss. Ignoring free play because that just allows you to play whichever minigames you want, we have Step It Up, which is just a simple game of who can win this amount of minigames first. Garden Battle is fine, Choice Challenge was pretty cool, and same thing goes for High Rollers. There's this Time Attack mode where you play 10 minigames and try to complete them as quick as you can. This one is also alright if you're into that sort of thing. And finally there's Boss Rush, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a boss rush where you play either all of the mid bosses, stage bosses, or all of the bosses. Just like the last one, if you like the idea of this one, you'll probably like this mode. That concludes the minigame section. Now it's on to the museum. So when you play the game, you earn these party points. These points can then be redeemed here in the museum. You can unlock constellations, new vehicles, extra game modes, and I guess even music and character voices?
Mario time!
Koopas!
You can also view additional things such as your records and the credits. And that finally leads us to the final section of the game, Extras, where there are only 4 things to do. First up is Castle Clear Out. It's just a very simple puzzle game. Put the colored orbs close to the other colored orbs of the same color and they disappear. Cool. Interestingly enough, this puzzle game would be re-released in a future game, a future non-Mario game to be exact, because this game was one of the many other games playable in Clubhouse games for the Nintendo Switch. Game number 47, 6-Ball Puzzle. From what I can tell, they're pretty much the exact same game. Both Clubhouse and MP9 were made by the same developers, so yeah, very cool to see this one return. The next game is Shell Soccer, and yup, it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It is soccer but with a Koopa shell. This one is pretty fun if a bit simple, and I can at least tell you that it is a lot more fun and engaging than the Mario Soccer game that we did get on Switch. I am never gonna let that game down. Always remember the mediocrity that was Mario Strikers Battle League. I digress. Next up is Goomba Bowling. It's pretty much just the same thing as the minigame of the same name but extended. Instead of each player rolling down the lane once, each player now plays the game like traditional bowling. You throw the shell twice for one lane and it goes on until 5 lanes are complete. Nothing much else to say. If you like Goomba Bowling, this is pretty much the exact same thing but longer. And finally there is Perspective Mode. So this one is weird. You just play 10 standard minigames, but now the camera is moved towards this odd third person perspective. Okay, I guess. Oh man, I do love the minigame Ringleader, but it would be so much better if I got a better view of Wario's ass throughout the entire minigame. Oh, thank god, now it's perfect. Final things worth noting about the game is the visuals and presentation. The game honestly looks really great. Sure, the originality of the environments leave much to be desired, but the models of the characters and the textures in some of the minigames and the boards, they all look great. This was one of the last games Nintendo developed on the Wii, and you can just tell how much they perfected on making great looking games on the hardware. Honestly, just bump up the resolution and you can pretty much pass this off as a Wii U game. Yeah, I'm not kidding, the game looks that great. And the final thing worth noting is the music. Dude. The music. The game's OST is shockingly very good for what is just supposed to be basic goofy background tracks for a party game. There were some Mario music tracks that I remember from the top of my head that I couldn't exactly pinpoint where they came from, only for some of them to appear in this game, and I was just like, oh, that came from this game? I can't find a way to play some of my favorite tracks back to back without it breaking the pace of this video, so I'm just going to splash on screen a list of some of the more memorable tracks from the game. Just look them up on YouTube and have a listen to them. The soundtrack of this game is really good. And that is pretty much Mario Party 9. I played worse? Seriously though, I was honestly surprised that I was able to find enjoyment from playing Mario Party 9. Yes, the game being more luck-based stinks, a good amount of the captain events are simply padding, and the entire new gameplay change of using a card is simply inferior compared to the original Mario Party formula. But I don't know. I still had fun with it. The minigames were great, some of the boards were pretty good in terms of the design and gimmicks, and even though the increase of luck is kind of annoying, it's still fun to see what kind of unpredictable shenanigans can happen when playing this game. I only played this game alone, so I can only imagine how much more entertaining it would be to get other people to play along with. I think it's safe to say that most people who don't like Mario Party 9 are really against it, not because of what it is, but because of what it isn't. Nintendo changing the gameplay formula for Mario Party 9 was clearly done as a way to shake things up with this series due to the last 8 mainline entries pretty much being the exact same game, only with different boards and a different set of minigames with each installment. And by the time that 8 came out, most people had complained about the series getting stale and wanted something different and new from the series. But there's a difference between shaking something up and just making something completely new. Mario Party 9 was simply not Mario Party. And funnily enough, when fans got this game alongside other future Mario Party games, they quickly learned that one should be careful with what they wish for, because you know what? They just might get it. I have a feeling that if this game was sold as a spin-off game and it was called something like, I don't know, Mario Party Starlight, and then they made a traditional Mario Party game and called that Mario Party 9, then maybe the game's reception would have been better. Who knows really. I'm honestly glad that I still got to check out this game after so long. I initially came to the conclusion that this game was bad all along because people online said so, and I just thought my dumb kid brain just didn't know what a good video game was, but after playing it now, yeah, it's fine. It's definitely not as bad compared to other games from this genre. I'd much rather play this than the likes of Amiibo Festival or Shrek's Super Party or something. If you're curious about this game, I highly suggest you check it out for yourself. It's not going to blow anyone away, nor do I expect anyone to have this as their favorite Mario Party game, but I think you'd be surprised to find something entertaining about a game that many people wrote off as one of the worst Mario Parties ever made. Because believe me, compared to some of the actual worst Mario Party games that I've played from recent memory, this one was honestly really good. And yeah, I guess with all that said, there's only one thing left to say. Why on earth does this video featuring all of the minigames in Mario Party 9 have this many views? I did the research, this is apparently the most viewed Nintendo related video on YouTube. I'm legitimately super confused. Did any of you watch this?
O cholera, czy to Freddy Fazbear? Oh, 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 oh.